Welcome classic rock fans to another episode of a classic song review where classic tracks are excavated and explored. For today's episode I'd like to talk about a wonderful song called The Kick Inside by Kate Bush, which is from her debut album, of course. Kate Bush is a bit of an odd one, without a doubt, but I think she's also an incredibly original, innovative artist that we're unlikely to see the likes of ever again. Anyway, The Kick Inside, an interesting song with some dark themes to it. It follows the story of a young girl impregnated by her brother. This story, I think, has roots deep in sort of folk, in the sort of folk tradition. I believe there were songs called Lizzie One or Fair Lizzie, Scottish ballads, which more or less address the same sort of theme. But I think this song draws heavily upon Greek mythology for its ideas. The structure of the song is quite interesting. It takes the form of a note, a suicide note, in fact, where she muses on the kind of relationship she has with her brother, but she doesn't seem to blame anyone. She seems to suggest it was kind of a natural progression in many respects. For example, the opening line, she rhapsodizes about her brother. Do you know you have the face of a genius? Then we get the line, I'll send your love to Zeus. The suggestion is, of course, that she's going to the gods, she's going to die. And Zeus is interesting. Not only does it bring that whole sort of Greek mythology theme which pervades this song, of course Zeus as a figure is quite interesting in the context of this song. He effectively had relations with his own sister, so the whole incest theme is touched upon. And they had two children, Artemis, a daughter, goddess of the moon, and Apollo, a son, goddess of the sun. Of course, I think the conceit contained in the image here is that the two should never meet. I think that's the idea. Interestingly, Artemis was also supposed to be the protector of young girls. If we continue with the lyrics, for example, we get, by the time you read this, I will be well in touch. I think the suggestion is, by the time you read this, I'll be gone. And then we get the lines, I'm giving it all in a moment or two, I'm giving it all in a moment for you. And the present continuous tense here seems to suggest an ongoing state of affairs, an ongoing relationship. And we get the wonderful repetition, I'm giving it all, giving it all. The repetition itself seems to suggest a repeated action. I think here she's talking about the relations she's had with her brother, but giving it all could also suggest that she's giving her life as well. The kicking here inside, of course, is a reference to the life she's carrying inside her. Makes me leave you behind. A strange line, which I'm not sure I fully understand. I think it's almost like that it's kind of exceeded boundaries. It's a step too far, and she feels that suicide perhaps is her only option here. Very much in the tradition of a Greek tragedy. No more under the quilt to keep you warm. I mean, that line suggests all manner of possibilities given the context of the song. Your sister I was born, you must lose me like an arrow. The simile here is interesting, of course, because Apollo would fire arrows. I think Artemis did as well, but the arrow is a central image to these two Greek mythological figures. Shot into the killer storm, a metaphor for death or tumult, or the coming tempest, so to speak. And then she starts to sort of reminisce about their childhood. You and me on the bobbing knee. Didn't we cry at that old mythology he'd read? He'd, I suppose, the jest is obviously the father figure. But obviously it seems to suggest that the whole sort of idea of mythology, or Greek mythology, was introduced to them when they were very young. I will come home again, but not until the sun and the moon meet on yon hill. The sun and the moon, Apollo and Artemis, meet on the hill, which I suspect they're never going to. Then we get that repetition, I'm giving it all in a moment or two. It's a beautiful song, and it's packed with imagery, and that's one thing I love about Kate Bush, is constant references to mythology, literature, and all manner of things that make her an incredibly interesting artist to listen to. There's also an interesting performance of this song that she filmed for French TV, where she actually is laid on a funeral barge. It's quite an interesting video. You can go on YouTube and check it out. Anyway, thank you for watching. Please click like and subscribe. Please share this video. Check out the Facebook page. But more importantly, please do keep listening.